How's it going, everybody? This is the Nitty Gritty. My name is Chad. With me is Leonard. And this week we are going to be bringing you part 2 of our King of the Ring Unstable Stables. Last time we did the winners and we drafted them. And this week we are going to be doing what Leonard has affectionately dubbed the Princes of the Ring, that being the runners-up to each tournament. And we are going to be doing the same thing with those. And Leonard is going to explain a little bit about what Unstable Stables is.
Yeah, so Chad and I are going to go back and forth, and Chad has the first pick this time since I had the first pick last time. And we're going to be drafting the runners-ups of the Kings of the Ring, as Chad says, the sequel to what we did the first time, drafting the winners. So our draft pool, it's going to be 20 guys of 22. Randy Savage and Kurt Angle were winners of Kings of the Ring tournaments, but also were runner-ups. So we took them out since they were already part of our last draft. So the King of the Ring started in 1985, but it didn't become a pay-per-view until 1993. So the runners-up starting in 85 were the Iron Sheik, Pedro Morales, King Kong Bundy, Randy Savage, who we're skipping over, Rick Martel, Erwin R. Shyster. Then we get to 93. We have Bambam Bigelow, Razor Ramon, Savio Vega, Jake Roberts, Mankind, The Rock, X-Pac, Rikishi, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam. Then it went away for a few years. It came back in 06 with Bobby Lashley being the runner-up, CM Punk in 08, John Morrison in 2010, Neville in 2015, Chad Gable in 2019, and Finn Balor just this past year. So there's going to be 20 guys, and so that's 10 guys each that we're going to be drafting back and forth, and we're going to place them into a card, which I'll go over when we get there, very similar to the card we did last time. And you get these guys as they were at the time they were in the tournament. So with most of them, you're getting them pretty close to their peak. Sometimes not. There's a few exceptions on here, which we'll probably mention. And again, Chad, you get the first pick, and we'll go back and forth till all 20 guys are gone.
All right. Well, to me, there is an obvious first draft choice here, and that would be The Rock. So I am going with The Rock for my number 1 pick.
Okay, there were 2 ways I thought you would go. The Rock was one, and my number 2 pick, or I guess my number 1 pick going at number 2, CM Punk.
Oh, interesting. See, I'm surprised you picked him first. Like that. I mean, this was certainly a CM Punk that was on the rise. And yeah. I mean, he had been in the ring, obviously, for a long time at this point. So skill-wise, he was probably at peak-ish. I don't know.
Yeah, this is 08. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting first pick. Well, then my next pick is going to be Bobby Lashley.
You know, I had Bobby a lot lower on my draft board. I'm kind of surprised at you at him there. Now, this is, of course, good prime Lashley, although I like him now.
He's great now as well.
Yeah. So there are 3 guys I'm really torn with here. I'm trying to think who you would most likely go with next of those 3. So I'm going to go with Razor Ramon.
Okay. All right. Well, my next pick is going to be Mankind.
He was not one of my 3, so I still have to say, well, who might he go with now? And I'm going to go with Rob Van Dam.
Yeah, he was one I had considered. I am going to pick Finn Balor next.
He was the other guy. He was my 3rd guy, and he would have been my next pick if you hadn't taken him. I'm going to go with Bambam Bigelow.
This person is very underrated. So I'm going to go with him now, and that's Chad Gable.
Okay. I had Chad a lot lower on my list. And yeah, maybe that's because he's underrated. Maybe it's because he's current. I got 2 guys I want here. I'm going to go with a guy I would call underrated, and I think might be a sleeper in a tournament like this, Rick Martel.
All right. My next pick is going to be Rikishi.
Okay. I'm going to go John Morrison.
Got two picks in mind. I'm going to go with another guy that I feel is underrated, and he's not with the company anymore. He currently goes by Pac in AEW. I'm going to go with Neville.
Is that the guy called PAC, and that's not his name?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Okay.
That should go in the future blooper reel.
Yes. Yeah. So Neville. So you're getting Neville, just to be clear.
Yes.
Because that was his name here. I'm going to pick Savio Vega.
That's a good pick. That would have been my next pick as well. And I agree with you. He is very underrated. And he did a lot of really good work during this time with a lot of guys that were kind of up and coming. And he was one of those, even though he'd worked somewhere else before this, like he is one of those tried and true talents that you could kind of get in the ring and really test the waters to see how good or bad you were. And another guy that WWE used for that specific purpose is x-pac.
X-pac has been on my list for a while, and I kept kind of jumping over him. And I don't know. I think X-pac has X-pac heat with me. Like, I recognize Sean Waltman was a good talent, but he got to the point where I just didn't care to see him anymore in the ring. So, but that's nothing against his talent. Very talented guy. I kept jumping over him for quite a while. I think I got a plan here. I'm going to go with Pedro Morales.
I am going with King Kong Bundy.
All right. He was another guy that I had higher, and I kept jumping over him. I'm going to go. I'm surprised he's still on the board. But I love the dude. I'm going IRS.
IRS. All right. And is the Sheik still on the board?
Yeah. So you're going Iron Sheik.
Iron Sheik.
So that surprised me. I figured Sheik would be the last guy to go.
Really? Like,
I thought he
was still pretty prime Sheik at this point.
Yeah. So that means the very last pick goes to me, and it's Jake Roberts.
That doesn't surprise me. I'll be honest. Like,
Jake, I thought was going to be in the bottom four.
Yeah. I mean, this was not a Jake Roberts that was in shape the way he was before.
No.
Actually, if we want to be real, Jake Roberts is in better shape now than he was during this tournament. And that says a lot. He was on the religious kick then. This is not the era that I personally want to look back on and think of Jake Roberts. I just don't. No.
This was 1996. So if we're talking 10 years before this, then definitely he probably would have went a lot higher.
Right. Oh, yeah.
With either of us. The only thing I can say is, of course, this was where we got Austin 316, and he helped to tell that story. And he was kind of the run that he had this tournament. It was a good storytelling from him here.
Yeah.
But everything else you said was absolutely true. The only thing that is good here was the story that Jake helped to tell and helped to turn Austin into Steve Austin.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then that means our draft has concluded. Leonard, do you want to recap the names?
I will recap. So Chad's roster is The Rock, Bobby Lashley, Mankind, Finn Balor, Chad Gable, Rikishi, Neville, x-pac, King Kong Bundy, and Iron Sheik. My guys are CM Punk, Razor Ramon, RVD, Bam Bam Bigelow, Rick Martel, John Morrison, Savio Vega, Pedro Morales, IRS, and Jake the Snake Roberts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take all the guys we drafted and we're going to seed them into a card, which is going to be comprised of a Sweet 16, a Elite 8, a Final 4, a tag team match, and then the finals. Now, last time it was a 6-man tag because we had extra guys, 2 extra guys. We had 22, now we have 20 altogether. So that's where we're going to have a tag match. And it is important to note that it could be very possible that it won't be even my guy versus Chad guy in the future rounds. We're just going to talk it out and see who goes forward and go from there. So since Chad had the first pick, I get the first seeding on the card. And do I want to go with my heavy hitters first, or do I want to go elsewhere? Do I want to put maybe someone who I think I'm going to put one of my heavy hitters, but someone who I think would put on a really good opener? And I'm going to seed first Rob Van Dam.
Rob Van Dam. Well, that is a good pick. And you know what? I am going to avoid putting a super heavy hitter against Mr. Van Dam.
Okay.
But I am going to give him somebody that I know would give him a great match. And to me, this is like, I don't want to call it a dream match, but it's like a low key dream match in that I think these guys would have really great chemistry. And I'm going to have him go against Chad Gable.
Okay. When you started talking, there were two guys I thought you were going to go with here, and Chad Gable was one of them. You know, as you said, Chad Gable's underrated. I like him. You know, I'm not watching the current product a lot, but from what I've seen, I kind of like what they're doing with him and Otis. What's that? The Alpha Academy.
Yeah.
That seems like it fits him pretty well. But again, you're going against Rob Van Dam, who is not a big guy, but bigger than Chad Gable, and also is very agile. This is towards very much the prime of at least his WWE career.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll let you talk here, but I think it would be very hard to argue Gable beating Van Dam in the opener.
No, I do think this would be a good match, and you know, fairly even. I think that, you know, based on Van Dam's seasoned abilities, I think that would propel him to win this match. And we got to remember, Rob Van Dam was the runner-up from to somebody who won that was like a lightning bolt from out of nowhere, and that being Brock Lesnar. So, like, had this been any other year, Rob Van Dam might very well have won this tournament, and I don't think anybody would have thought twice about it. But it was kind of hard to stop the freight train like momentum that Lesnar had at this time. But Rob Van Dam has always had a really strong fan following. You know, sometimes in his career, he's kind of gotten in his own way. He always kind of, you know, goes his own speed at things, but he would be a win here for sure. But a good opener.
Yes. I think that's what we're both trying for, just a solid opener. So you get to seed next. Who are you putting out there?
All right. Well, I am going to go with Bobby Lashley.
Bobby Lashley. Okay. Who do I want? Do I want to give Bobby Lashley somebody who I think might beat him, or I want to give him somebody who he can just kind of mow over, or someone I would like to see fight Bobby Lashley? You know who I would like to see fight Bobby Lashley up for my list? Bambam Bigelow.
So yeah, this would be a good physical match. I definitely think that Bobby Lashley has good chemistry with big guys.
Yes.
Because he can kind of work that style in that he kind of goes into the Lesnar explosiveness mode, and he can usually have decent matches with bigger guys. This is a pretty prime Bam Bam Bigelow. And Bam Bam Bigelow is one of the top, I would say, top 5 or 10 big guys in the business, in that he could really move and he had a unique look. However, I would have to go with Bobby Lashley here, not just because he's my guy, but because he's, to me, the more rounded person in the ring. You know, Bam Bam Bigelow has a lot of power and size, but Bobby Lashley has proven that he can deal with guys that are that size. And not only does he have the power as well, but he has good submission games and everything else. So he can beat somebody like this. But yeah, I think this would be a good follow-up match to a opener that probably would have been faster paced.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could argue Bam Bam Bigelow winning here, but I don't think it's an argument I would win or I should waste my effort on. I think it would be a good match. I think if this is 93 Bigelow, which you said was really good. If this was maybe 87 Bigelow, like towards the very beginning of his career, my God, he was really so athletic at that time.
Right.
I mean, he still is here, but yeah, I think you're right. I think Lashley is more of a well-rounded talent. I think he's someone who works well with other bigger guys. And, you know, overall, I don't think it's as clear of a win for Lashley as you say, but I do think it is a win for Lashley.
No, you know what? If I came across that way, I'll correct myself. This would be very even based on the trajectory, the career trajectory of both of these guys at this time. I do think that these guys are very evenly matched.
Okay. Well, in that case,
this is before the Hurt Lock. So
Yes.
although Bobby Lashley has submission experience, certainly, I don't know that it would have been a full Nelson submission here. Although that would have been an interesting visual with Bam.
Okay. Well then, still, I would
You know what
go
we got to
with
do though, Leonard? We got to drink again when we do one of these because, like, I feel like your whole hesitation to get into an argument might fly right out the window if we had a couple drinks in us.
That's possible. Well, we'll see what happens as we go forward because I get the next seed, and I am going to go for the big guns. I'm gonna bring in CM Punk now.
All right. Well, in that case, I am going to go with somebody that might have a match with CM Punk at some point. I don't think they've ever had a match to date, but that would be Neville.
Okay.
And so Neville in AEW is one of those guys that I know that they have. I'll say this. I think that AEW and Tony Khan have more of an eye on Neville Pac than did Vince in WWE. Neville is still stuck in the kind of mid-card and the faction type feuds in AEW, but he's so explosive in the ring. He's so good at what he does. I really hope that he has a run with one of the belts there because I think he deserves it. I definitely think that this would be a good match, and I really hope this match happens on AEW at some point because I think it would be really great to see a seasoned, older CM Punk go against somebody like this who's really, really quick and can kind of hit you all over the place. CM Punk is obviously the better man here. I'm not going to argue that Neville would win. If it was CM Punk today and Neville today, or Neville back then, I might change my argument. But this was a CM Punk that was still pretty young, and Neville still had some growing to do, I think, as a talent. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was 08. Was Neville in working by 08?
That's a good question. I do not know.
I would have to look that up. If he was just starting out, I would guess. I like Neville. I think / Pac. I think that the problem, in WWE for him was he was so small. He was not small physically. I think he's muscular. He's physically.
That's the issue with WWE. And
but he's short.
Yeah, we could connect this with Chad Gable as well.
Yeah,
Chad Gable, to me, if anybody deserves a run with a belt, maybe not the world title, but like a belt, it's Chad Gable.
U.S. title. Yeah.
But like the size thing, it's sad to me that after so many decades in business that Vince is still with the whole size thing. To me, it's just mind-boggling. But I agree, Neville's height is probably the main factor of what held him back when he was in WWE.
Yeah, and he looks like an elf. Other than that, I like Neville too. I think this would be if it was Neville now versus CM Punk. Then that's an excellent match. And even today, I think these guys could put on a good match. And for what I've seen or what I've read about AEW, it seems like Punk seems to just work with people he wants to work with. It seems like he shows up and he says, "I'm gonna wrestle that dude tonight," and then he does. So he might wind up getting Neville at some point, and if that happens shortly after this posts, that would be excellent for us to take a look at. But
it would be, and as it stands now, CM Punk is heading into Double or Nothing to challenge Hangman Adam Page for the world title. And normally I would say, well, they're probably going to keep it on Page, but I actually don't know what they're going to do there. CM Punk is very much in a mode where I think he wants to bring out the best in the talents that he's in the ring with. So we'll see what happens there. But anywho, moving on.
And it's interesting to me that I think so far, and I don't want to jinx this, that this Princess tournament, the first few rounds are a lot more competitive than what our King of the Ring tournament was, I think.
I'm also trying to strategize where I'm putting people more. Like,
okay.
Part of me wanted to put my heaviest hitter against CM Punk right away and knock him out the first round. But I don't want to. We don't have to get there just yet. Like we don't have to get there right off the bat. We want to make people entertained throughout.
All right. So you got the placement. This is match 4.
All right. Well, I am going to give you Mankind.
Mankind. Okay. So, I got two ways I could go here. I could go a nice argument, or I could just give him somebody that he could just eat. You know what I would like to see, and I'm just going to give it to you because I want to see it. I don't know if it ever happened. Mankind versus Jake Roberts.
Yeah, that would be that would be an interesting feud with a peak Jake Roberts. The heel Jake Roberts against either a face or a heel Mankind, to me, is like, a license to print money. The fact, you know what, like, I would have loved to have seen like a stable with Taker, Roberts, and Mankind, like that.
and they should bring in Kevin Sullivan.
There, you just ruined it.
No, I just created the Dungeon of Doom, didn't I? Damn it.
Anyway, yeah, this would be an entertaining match for sure, and I definitely think Foley would be very generous in how he worked with Roberts. I think that he would, not have any problems, making Roberts look good, despite the fact that at this time Jake Roberts was overweight and not nearly as in shape as he once was, as we talked about. So I would give the win to Mankind here, Mandible Claw. But it would be an interesting match.
Because I think it would have a great story. Because as we said, Roberts at this time could still tell a story. And I think it would be a match that would have a really neat story. I like seeing their personalities go together. Again, we'll have to look up to see if they ever met in any fashion, because I know they floated around each other when Roberts was shortly in WCW.
Right.
He was there as Cactus Jack. I don't know. Had Mankind come in by the time? Because Mankind was there, 97, and Roberts left. I think they were probably there around the same period in WWE.
They might have crossed paths very briefly.
Shortly, yeah. So that would be interesting. But no, I just wanted to see the match, and I definitely think, again, if this was 10 years earlier, Jake, that's a stiff argument to make. But at this point, I just wanted to see that story told, and Mankind would certainly, I think, move on from here. So match 5, I've got the first placement, and I'm going to bring out what I would call the last of my big guns, and that's Razor Ramon.
All right. Well, you know what? I am going to give him somebody that has defeated him. So I have an argument here, and I know this is going to be good. You know exactly who I'm going to pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him X-Pac. And so this is an X-Pac that's more seasoned in the ring, and he beat Razor Ramon when he was like young and green in the ring. So I think that this wouldn't last more than a minute. I think X-Pac would get in there and do the Bronco Buster. And no, I'm just kidding. This would be a good match, though. I definitely think there's an argument to be made that X-Pac could, crank out a win here by cheating or something.
Yes.
But these guys are obviously friends in real life. And you know what? Based on your earlier argument of like, the argument not being worth your time, I honestly, I would rather see Razor Ramon move on anyway.
Okay. They had a lengthy feud, which they were friends. They were against each other. X-Pac joined the corporation and lost the diaper match. So I would say, since Razor Ramon made X-Pac wear a diaper, that there's no way that he's going to get that win back after that point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to agree with you, Ramon. But these guys could work together, and I think that's a great match in the middle of a card that's going to be a long show, that after you've had some of these matches, giving them some time, that's going to help wake the crowd back up for part 2 of this first round, I think. So yeah, that's a great matchup. But we got Razor moving on. So yeah, now you get the first seed, and now it's going to get interesting, I think.
All right, so I am going to give you Finn Balor.
Finn Balor. Okay. So do I want to feed someone to Finn Balor, or do I want to give him someone I think he could have a good match with? And you know what? Let's go with there's two guys I might give him. I'm gonna give him because I'm looking to see who you got left. Oh yeah, all my guys are gonna get crushed, I think, after this. I'm gonna go with John Morrison. And I don't know if he's probably faced John Morrison, hasn't he?
Yeah, but well, I don't know. He might have been a heel at this time. I honestly forget.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to remember who's all faced who. I'm sure in the comments people might be like, "You idiots!" Blah blah blah. They faced
right.
at whichever. But Finn Balor versus John Morrison, I think that's a good matchup between two guys, relatively in their primes, who both have a similar style. They're fast. They can go to the air. Just really, really fast dudes. It's hard for me to, again, because John Morrison's my guy. I think Morrison, at least at this point, has had kind of a longer career. I think he's had the more interesting character. He's done more than I think Morrison, has had. I don't know if I want to say opportunities, but I think WWE has used him better. And Morrison, too, has gone on and done more outside the company than what Finn Balor had done, even though he, had runs elsewhere as Prince Devitt and such.
Right.
So I don't know. I lean towards John Morrison based on some of those intangibles.
Well, I would have to lean towards Finn Balor here because he was our first Universal Champion. Unfortunately, he got injured right away, but he did reach the top of that mountain. And that is something that John Morrison has yet to do, unjustly, I might add. But I really do think that John Morrison has kind of been shortchanged during his runs in WWE because he has accomplished so much outside of the company. But I definitely think that overall, this would be a really even match. I think both guys have a similar skill set, similar builds. Both look chiseled out of granite, great bodies, great looks. I definitely think that Finn Balor is the more seasoned talent in terms of, being more well-rounded in the ring than John Morrison. John Morrison is more known for his high-flying skills. I think Finn Balor can do everything. But what do we think?
I think Morrison's underrated in all those others, not just going to the air. I just think he tends to do that more, especially as he's got older. I think he's rounded out his mat game better. So what we could do, and we did it last time, we could call it a draw and move both guys on to a triple threat.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, we're going to move both of these guys on to a triple threat in the next round. All right, I've got the first placement this time. And I'm going to go with Rick Martel. He was the guy I almost gave to Finn Balor.
All right. Well, see, this is tough. Like, I could give him somebody that I don't know if I really want to ever see this match, but I think it would be really even. But I'm not going to do that. I am going to end Mr. Martel's night early, and I'm going to give him The Rock.
Oh, God. I didn't think you were going to give him The Rock. I thought you were going to save The Rock. You know what? Rock versus Martel, I think, would be a good bout.
It would be. Yeah, I think it would be.
I think it would be because, Rock was still at a point here where this was 98, so he was still very early in his career. And Martel was a guy who would, I think, make The Rock look good. Like, Martel would go in there. This was Martel from 89. So he would go in there and purposely want The Rock to look good, put him over, have a hell of a match with him. I could see at this point that going to say time and this being maybe a shorter match, maybe 5 to 7 minutes. But I think it would be a damn good 5 to 7 minute match with Martel working his ass off to get Rocky over.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
All right, we are on the last match of the first round, so this is match 8. Chad, you get the first placement, and of your 3 guys left, I'm interested to see where you go.
You have the Iron Sheik.
You know who he has? IRS.
Oh, man. Well, this, to me, I would say that these guys are simply one level apart in their respective eras. The Iron Sheik was champion, and IRS was a tag team champion, but he was never a top guy. So I can envision IRS getting submitted. I can't envision Iron Sheik jobbing to him.
Well, I don't know if any of my other guys would have beat him. That would be interesting to say, because I have a plan for my other two guys in the tag match. Yeah, I mean, Sheik, I don't think was as much in his prime as you think he is in 1985. If you look at him in the late 70s as compared to this period, he's put on weight, he's slowed down. Mike Rotundo was a hell of a hand in the ring. And I think Rotundo was probably a little bit better prior to his IRS period. I think this is an interesting match. I think it's a match where this is the piss break match before the next set of matches, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to argue IRS moving on here over Sheik, because I think Sheik, as being a former world champion, has more clout. I think Rotundo would be much more up to putting Sheik over than Sheik putting Rotundo over, if you want to get into politics backstage.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, I'll send the Iron Sheik on, and the fact that I have the board in front of me, I know what we're going to get coming up, and that's going to be fun as hell when we get there. So we are moving on to our Elite Eight. And the first match of the Elite Eight is my guy versus Chad's guy, Rob Van Dam versus Bobby Lashley. I'll let you go first.
Well, this would be an interesting match, I think. I wonder if these guys met in TNA. I'm sure they did.
Most likely. I'd have to look it up.
They probably did. I think that if I were to argue for this really heavily, I could say that Lashley has been booked is booked almost, well, maybe not consistently, but he's booked more as a top guy than I think Rob Van Dam has been. But I will say that I think that Rob Van Dam is probably the better rounded person here, by a hair. I think that Rob Van Dam has shown that he can be pretty resilient when it comes to dealing with big muscular guys. Mm-hmm. He's had some good matches with Triple H and people like that. But in my head, I can't see Bobby Lashley getting the win in this case, in this era. If it was today's Lashley, I would change my opinion for sure. Mm-hmm. But this era of Lashley, I think, was just maybe a shade behind Rob Van Dam.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think Rob Van Dam has shown that he is better at guys Lashley's size, and say Lashley is against guys maybe Van Dam size, and with that agility and with that speed and with that ability to go to the air. Bobby Lashley today versus Rob Van Dam today, yeah, I would go Lashley. But at this point, I think I can't say much more than I agree with you. I think that Van Dam is maybe by just a few slight hairs in some of the categories more well-rounded than Lashley at this point. So, and I think this may be a better match than people would give it credit for. I'm sure it probably happened in TNA, but neither one of us are TNA experts. Rob Van Dam will move on from here. So next up, we have match 3 winner versus match 4 winner, and it is a my guy versus your guy again, and it's CM Punk versus Mankind.
So, you know what? I'm going to let you give your thoughts first this time.
Okay. Well, CM Punk, I think, is certainly the catchword for this episode seems to be well-rounded. And I think CM Punk is a much more well-rounded wrestler over Mankind, aka Mick Foley. Mankind was certainly a character that did a lot of jobs and put a lot of guys over. CM Punk during this period was winning a lot, was getting the big push. I mean, this feels like a match that would be put together to put Punk over, and it put Punk over well. You know, Punk isn't, say, a hardcore guy, but I think he could meet Foley in that area. Like, I can picture Punk taking the cactus clothesline, like over the top rope to the floor. I can picture him taking the cactus elbow. I think this comes down to like the anaconda vice versus the mandible claw.
I was going to say that.
That's what it's going to come down to. And I could see Punk like being in the mandible claw and somehow going down and getting the anaconda vice on. So they're both like in the same submission hold at the same time. I don't know how that would work. I'm trying to picture it in my head, but I think it would be something like that. But if you look at where these two guys were, again, if you use our watchword of being well-rounded, if you just look at who was getting the push, who was more likely to put the other guy over, I think Punk wins this, and I think it's a really neat match. I think this is a match that people wouldn't know was a dream match until it was in front of their face.
So what year was Mick Foley?
So this is 97, and he lost to Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And the Punk, this is Punk from 08, and he lost to William Regal, which I don't remember the storyline there, but that was a bit of an oddity.
So that would probably be the only reason why I would agree with you here, which, I guess I'm trashing my own guys more, but I would agree with you here simply because of year. Had this been a year later, I might say that say something different, because Foley was, would be on the rise more in 98 and 99. But overall, I agree with what you said. I do think that I could see Mick Foley submitting CM Punk. And we got to remember that, CM Punk lost to William Regal, as you just said. So
yes,
I do think that, a case could be made to that CM Punk would not win this. I can envision your scenario, though. Maybe a mandible claw and then a reversal of some sort. But I'll agree with you here. We'll have CM Punk move on.
All right. So now we've got our triple threat of Razor Ramon versus Finn Balor versus John Morrison. So since I talked first last time, I'll let you talk first this time.
Well, this is an interesting triple threat, isn't it? Obviously you have Scott Hall, who is the biggest guy of this trio, but certainly not I wouldn't say the most athletic of this trio. I would still say Balor and Morrison are still pretty evenly matched when it comes to sheer athleticism. Based on how the match went between Morrison and Balor, I can easily envision a scenario where those guys are concentrating on each other, and Razor Ramon ekes out a win by getting the Razor's Edge somehow, or cheating, whatever. I think that based on his age and the fact that he was in the business a little bit longer, and I think more of a known name, I think all those things considered, I can see Scott Hall, Razor Ramon being the person that wins here, simply because he's a little bit different of a talent than these two guys. He has maybe not more to offer, but something different to offer in power and old school approach. So
my argument was going to be that Balor and Morrison would probably cancel each other out because of everything we said in the previous match, how evenly matched they are, with Ramon being the wild card. And it should be mentioned that Razor Ramon, as compared to Big Scott Hall, was a leaner guy. And if you watch, I think this is maybe probably the best period of his career as far as match quality, his ability to go in the ring, the different type of people that he worked with and could work with during this period. So I think it would probably work out the way you said, that Balor and Morrison would continue to focus on each other, and that Ramon would just kind of hang back and look for spots and probably wind up swooping in and hitting that razor's edge on somebody. So I would agree here that Ramon would move on. And it's interesting how when you make these triple threats, how the outcome could change from if it was a one guy versus the other guy.
Right.
The difference that it makes. So that's very interesting to me. So next up, we have The Rock versus the Iron Sheik.
This one is obvious. The Rock wins this to me very easily. And unless you have something else to offer here, I think we can move on.
No. I the only thing I will say is that the promos would be amazing.
Yes. Yeah, that would be fun.
I just hope they give The Rock and Sheik promo time in between the matches, because that's all I want.
Just to see The Rock impersonate the Iron Sheik, I think would be great.
Yes. So that's the only thing I want. Okay, so we're now to the Final Four. So, wow, this is a cool Final Four. Match one of our Final Four, we have Rob Van Dam versus CM Punk. And these are both my guys.
Both your picks. What do you think, Leonard? You should be speaking first, since these are both your guys.
These are both my guys. You know, I think this is a great match. I think this is a fantastic match. I think this is a period where both these guys could go. I think it would you would see all their signature moves pulled out here. I think it would be a nice mix of aerial stuff, maybe on the floor a little bit, a lot of crisscrosses, just a nice up-tempo match, and I think a nicely told story. Although, you know, it's hard to make an argument.
You know what? Let me interject here while you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't really thought about here is the fact that this is a tournament, and these guys have now wrestled. This will be the third match.
Yeah.
For these guys. So we have to think about that. And if we're talking about stamina, endurance, and maybe having a little bit better cardio, I can easily envision a scenario where CM Punk gets a win here.
Because of that. Well, I was leaning toward Punk. The point I was about ready to make was that Rob Van Dam at this point was getting a hell of a push, as opposed to the hell of a push that Punk would get. But given your argument, I will lean with that, and I will give my vote to CM Punk.
All right, CM Punk in the finals.
All right, and next we have Razor Ramon versus The Rock.
Yeah, and these guys obviously were both doing their thing at the same time, but they were in different companies when they were on the rise. And obviously Scott Hall was already an established talent by the time The Rock was kind of moving up the card. But if we're taking Razor Ramon against The Rock, I think that you have two very evenly matched guys, in all sincerity. I can't argue against The Rock here. I just can't. I can't envision a scenario where Razor Ramon beats The Rock. I do think that this would be a very even match. Razor Ramon was the IC champ, and he never got the World Heavyweight Championship, but many people would argue that he should have. The Rock, however, is just simply a different level of talent, and I think although this stage of Rock would maybe not as easily be victorious against Razor Ramon, I do think he would still win, just based on how I think he's a little bit better in the ring overall.
I would agree with you on that. I do think this is a heck of a match between two guys. Ramon's at his peak. Rock is on his way up at this point. I think it would be a heck of a match. I don't know if did Rock and Hall ever do anything like, when Rock and Hogan had the WrestleMania match?
I can answer this, actually.
Yes. Okay. Answer this for me.
So and the only reason I know this is because I had done so much research on Hogan and Austin so the DVD that was released long ago of the NWO had, basically all the matches up until that point that the NWO was in. And on a Raw, I believe, there was a handicap match. It was the NWO, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hogan against, I want to say, The Rock and Austin. And so I'm almost positive it was The Rock. So that would have been the exchange.
Okay.
That would have been the only time. If they had any action in the ring together, that I can't remember. I know Hogan and Austin had a very brief moment in the ring together that Jim Ross commented on at the time. But so I would assume they had some time together there.
All right. Well, given that, yeah, I would lean The Rock here too. I think this would be a heck of a match. But I keep thinking about, well, who's on the rise? Ramon, people will tell you Scott Hall's one of the greatest wrestlers, never hold a world title. And there just seems to be a ceiling there with him. And getting this far and having a great match with The Rock, I think that's probably where it's going to wind up for him.
Right.
So I will go with The Rock here as well. So now we have our tag match prior to the main event. And you can figure out who that would be if you've been following along at home. So my team is Savio Vega and Pedro Morales, who I'm going to be calling the freaking Puerto Ricans,
Okay.
versus Chad's team of Rikishi and King Kong Bundy.
I'm going to call them Massive Cheeks. Just because. Just because. I was trying to think of a name the whole time we were doing this. And, that's the name that we ended up on, very inappropriately so. But I see a squash happening here, Leonard.
Yes, I would agree with that. I will tell you, before coming into tonight, I had two ideas in mind for the tag team. That was one of them, and the other one was getting IRS and the Iron Sheik and calling them Oil Money.
I love that. Was Pedro Morales is mostly like a face, right?
Yes, Pedro was mainly a face. My guys would be working face, I would say.
Well, you know what? Here's what I envision happening. I envision Savio Vega's life coming to a near end after an avalanche by Bundy, which then leads into a stink face and, then Rikishi's finisher. So Savio Vega's out for the count. And I think that Pedro does a heel turn and just leaves. not wanting any more of this shit, and he decides, you know what, this ain't worth it.
Well, this is an older Pedro. So I think that, you know what, and then Pedro versus Savio in like a Puerto Rican street fight.
Upcoming Fever Dreams.
Coming in Fever Dreams. That put that on the list. Yeah, I mean, this is a squash for your guys just because. I don't think it was probably smart on you because I don't know if Rikishi and Bundy move on against.
That was my thinking. Like I was looking at the both of them and I was like, well, I could see them maybe moving on one round depending on who you would put against them.
Right.
Like, but them together
is a heck of a tag team. It would probably be anyone I could throw together. But yeah, I mean, I came in with those two ideas, so I was going to go with one of them. But you know what? Let me ask you, if I would have put Savio Vega against the Iron Sheik, do you think Vega could have got the upset against Sheik?
So if it was, what would the teams?
No. So if in round 8, if in match 8, it was the Iron Sheik versus Savio Vega for the tournament, not IRS.
Ah, I see.
Do you think would my argument of Vega getting the upset victory, being the underdog and the dark horse, and kind of how he played the tournament, could I have gotten Vega through?
I would have probably picked Vega myself.
Okay, well there you go. I almost did that, but I did not. But the Iron Sheik versus The Rock is way cooler than the Iron Sheik, than The Rock versus Savio Vega, which totally happened. Even when I believe as Vega and also as Quang the Ninja. So
yeah, that's true.
So there you go. So now we're to the finals, the main event. This is the Prince of the Ring tournament. This guy gets the crown. It's CM Punk versus The Rock.
Well, It's been a nice run for CM Punk.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I think that this match happened in a different different lifetime really for both these guys. Which The Rock would win, and I think The Rock would win here as well. I think that CM Punk, one could probably prove that CM Punk had more experience, but in terms of maybe youthful exuberance, I think that The Rock would have him beat in terms of size and strength and maybe being more motivated to be the prince of the ring. So I would have to go with The Rock here. Although this makes me want to rewatch their match that they had later on because I remember it being pretty good. So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, as much as I would like to argue CM Punk, I think everything you said was solid and correct. When you consider the fact that CM Punk lost to William Regal at the time that he did lose, and that The Rock lost to Ken Shamrock, although that would seem to be an oddity. But Shamrock and Rock were having a feud that time. Yeah. Again, I think if this is Rock a couple years later, I think it even leans more toward him than it is even at this point. But I think this is a good match, and I think it is actually a match where Punk would take the lead. I think he would walk The Rock through it. I think he would do a very, very good match. I think it's the fact that The Rock is on his way up. I think, as you said, he would have more of the fire. I think the booking would be, let's put him over because he's sort of he's on the way up. Punk is kind of where he's at. So yeah, I mean, I have no problem with giving The Rock the win here over CM Punk and what I think would be a very good and competitive match. So The Rock is our Prince of the Ring, and therefore in the next Fever Dreams matchup will face Bret Hart, our King of the Ring.
Absolutely. I like that. I like leaving that for Fever Dreams. We'll have Savio versus Pedro in a Puerto Rican street fight.
Yes.
Gimmick has already been mapped out for you guys. So
yes. Yeah. And I don't know if there's anything else that we left on the table for the next Fever Dreams, but I'm sure we'll have to do those again soon because I think the card's getting full for that.
Yeah, it's taken on its own universe at this point.
And just to mention, because I counted the numbers twice because I wasn't sure, but we always try to think who wins, and we tied. We both have eight match. We if you count the triple threat as a win for both of us, Balor's a win and Morrison's a win, then we come out 8-8.
Wow. Well, I never thought that would happen.
No, that's why I counted it twice because I figured that but you won more of the preliminary matches. You won more of the first round matches than I did. Right. But I won more of the second round matches.
Right.
So that I think is what evened it out.
Interesting. All right. Well, then it'll be we'll have to add that to the record then.
Yes, I'm not sure what the overall record is right now. If you've been keeping track,
it's very close. I want to say, based on the last King of the Ring, I might be we were tied before that. I think I might be up by 1. I want to say it's like 3-2-1 at this point. Oddly enough, 3-2-1. But I think that's what it is. But I could be off. But it's very close. Okay.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm not sure what we're going to do next time we do this. I know you had mentioned doing the best of the WWF. So it would be guys between 63 and 78, I think.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And that would just be me going through and picking names that we would recognize.
Yeah, it would have to be, right?
Right. Yeah. Maybe we'll do that next time or we'll do something else. But, I mean, I love these unstable stables. I think they're a lot of fun. And the more that we think outside the box with them, like this King of the Ring and Prince of the Ring tournament, I think is even more fun. And I hope it's fun for you, the watchers.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are very enjoyable. And we should probably think about doing an actual stable again at some point. But I don't know what stables are left. But
we'll have to take a look. I'm sure
we could do 2 mini stables in one show. That might be fun.
Yeah, maybe. Or yeah, we could do 2, or we could mix up a stable.
The oddities.
Yeah, the oddities. Yeah, the right to, we should mix up right to censor and $1 Million Corporation.
There you go.
since we did the profiles of because we ranked those. We did the stable rank
That's true. Yeah.
of those two. So we should mix
And the
mix
York
them.
Foundation, our favorite.
And the York Foundation should be in there as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a plan. It'll be a cluster.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, it'll be a mess, but we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Let us know if you disagree or agree with any of our picks. Let us know what you think of the idea. As we said, we love doing it. And please check us out on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. Go ahead and comment however you wish on our YouTube video. Hit the like button on our YouTube video and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate all the help. For Leonard, my name is Chad. We will see you next time, and Alexa will see you out.